So even though there really hasn't been any new development for the next gen Mustang, I still constantly see videos being posted. Guys, calm down. Stop beating the dead horse. For the most part, I think we know what we know for now, and we're not going to know any more until we learn more from Ford. There just hasn't been a substantial piece of evidence or information released that can really confirm anything. So yes, calm down there a little bit. Just take it down a notch, will ya? But with all that said, I do still want to talk about some things on the next generation Ford Mustang. This isn't speculation. This is nothing. What this is things I personally would love to see make their way to the next gen Mustang. A wish list, if you will. So that's what I want to go ahead and talk about in this video. Ah, yes, the 2024 S650 Ford Mustang. Seems like there's a lot of just hype being drummed up already, and we know nothing. You know, I made a couple of videos myself because I am an avid Mustang enthusiast. I drive a Mustang. I've had 4 of them. You know, I like my Mustangs. They're a great car. They've always been one of my favorite cars as a kid. And it really is a fantastic car. So yes, of course, I'm gonna make some videos, you know, because I'm enthusiastic about it. And I'm gonna stay enthusiastic until it's out. But, you know, for the most part, we know what we're going to know. You know, for the most part, we know it's going to have a V8. We know all the powertrains are going to pretty much carry over. We know there's going to be a manual. We know there's going to be an automatic. What we really don't know is minor details. How it's going to look. Will it have a hybrid system? Even though it's kind of not really a minor detail. It's a big detail, but still, you know, it's these other things we just don't know yet. Nothing's been confirmed. So I just want to go ahead and make a wish list, regardless of what has been confirmed, what hasn't been confirmed. These are the things I would love to see on the next generation Mustang. Okay, so starting off, one of the biggest things that I've talked about ever since it was teased was a all-wheel drive hybrid system. Now, look, as much as I would love to see an all-wheel drive hybrid system make its way to the Mustang as an option, even a hybrid system of any sort would still be welcomed. And even if it's in the form of the Power Boost 10-speed, so be it. You know, if it only powers the rear wheel, so be it. That will aid a lot, especially if that is equipped in a vehicle like this. You know, the EcoBoost Mustang, where there is a massive delay in torque production because of the turbo lag. You know, like this car really won't light the turbo up until about 3,000 RPM. So until then, I'm not getting any power. So if I can have assistance, even if it is still to the rear wheels until peak torque comes in, that's going to make a massive difference in performance either way. So I would still love to see that make its way as a powertrain option for the next gen Mustang. Another thing I would love to see, and Ford really needs to just do it. Like, I think people would be happy to pay a small upcharge that it would cost to do it, but instead of having the MT82 6-speed manual in the manual option cars, please, for the love of God, put a Tremec in it. Put the same thing that's now being used in the Mach 1. For the love of God, make that the standard option for the manual transmission. Get rid of the MT82. For the love of freaking God, man, just get rid of that thing. That's the only reason I really did not want a manual transmission Mustang, unless it was a GT350 or a Mach 1, because I don't want the MT82. What I love about a manual transmission is just rocking the gears. And if I can't do that without risking damaging the transmission, I don't want it in a car that's supposed to be driven that way, that's intended to be driven that way. So yeah, I would love to see a Tremec manual transmission standard for the next generation Mustang. That would be great. Another option I would love to see standard for the next gen Mustang, and see, considering the type of vehicle the Mustang is, it's a sport vehicle, even in the most basic form, a base EcoBoost. It's still a sport coupe, a 2+2 coupe. That's what it is. It's not an economy car. It's not a luxury car. You know, it's not supposed to be the most comfortable thing. It's a sports car. It's supposed to make noise. It's supposed to shake. It's supposed to have vibration. That's the point of it. Okay? Now, the whole thing I'm trying to say is I would love to see the active exhaust as a standard feature on the next gen Mustang. I love it so much. I think, you know, it's a great system. Even if you were to replace the mufflers with aftermarket active mufflers and still be able to retain the same system in the car, you know how nice that is to have that feature, to be able to go from quiet, you know, and then to be able to make a lot of noise in an instant and put it in track mode, and then all of a sudden you have noise. You know how nice that is? It's so nice, and I love it. For long drives, sometimes, yeah, I'll leave it in normal mode. I won't even change it. Put it in quiet mode even. When I took my trip down to Florida, I put that in quiet mode, and it was nice. All I could hear is the radio and all the road noise, but I didn't have to worry about the exhaust drone. Now, most days when I'm feeling frisky and I want to have fun, I put that in track and I just let it rip. And it's nice to have that option on the vehicle from the factory. I don't have to spend any more money to do it. I have all the exhaust I need. So I would love to see that make its way as a standard option in the next generation Ford Mustang. I would love to see a turbocharged V8 version of something. That would be great. As nice as these supercharged engines are, obviously, you know, supercharged engines, they have their strong points and they definitely have their weak ones. The big thing about the supercharged engines that gets me is not so much the fact that they're less efficient, it's just the fact that they still have to use a belt. And almost all, like, you snap the belt, there goes your power. Plain and simple. And that's the thing. That's why I like turbochargers personally. It's not like I hate superchargers. I think turbochargers are just better. I would love to see another high revving engine option from Ford, like the Voodoo. I don't think they'll ever make anything like that again. You know, I don't think they'll ever make another flat plane crank engine. They don't seem to want to invest their money into anything like that anymore. Even when the competition is still developing that type of stuff, Ford just seems to have their interests in other places at the moment. So, you know, it just seems like they're only going to work with what they already have. They're not going to re-engineer anything. They're just going to engineer things in a way to make what they already have work together. And that's kind of sad, because I would love to see a successor to the Voodoo and something to be the answer, not to the Corvette, but to the Corvette Z06's flat plane crank engine in a Mustang. Now, moving on from that, there are some things I wish to see when it comes to looks, the aesthetics, both interior and exterior. We'll start with the interior first, since that's where we spend our time at. I honestly love the S650 interior so freaking much. Things do feel good. Like, it don't feel overly cheap. You know, certain, like, especially my car being a base model, yeah, I got the hard plastic side panels, but the plastic still feels nice. You know, it's like, not like, it doesn't feel like crap plastic. And most of the plastics in here don't feel bad. It feels good. You know, all the materials, I love it. I just don't want them to really change much. I love how the whole dash panel looks like a 60s Mustang. Freaking love that. It's so awesome. You know, it's a perfect blend of old and new, and I just love what they have done. And I love it so much, in fact, where I don't really want them to change it. Now, I welcome any updates and improvements, you know, small changes, but I really wish and just hope that most of the current interior styling remains the same and carries over. Small changes is fine. Keep it fresh, keep it new. But if there's any radical changes, I mean, not to say I'm going to hate it, but because I just love what they've done so much with the current, you know, interior, it would be a little upsetting. But as long as it looks nice and is functional and it's not stupid, it's made with nice interiors, it is what it is. Don't ruin a good thing, though, Ford. Just don't. As cool as the digital gauge cluster is, And I would love to say that they should offer that as a standard feature, considering most cars are now offering that as a standard feature. I still love the analog gauges too. I think Ford has some of the nicest analog gauges out of all of the competition right now. You know, I've never really been a fan of the Camaro gauge cluster, the analog gauges. But the Challenger and Charger gauge cluster isn't really all that bad. I just think the Mustang looks right. You know, it has that retro look, and it still looks very appealing. It's very functional. Now, the only thing, if they do carry over the analog gauge set and they don't make the digital gauge cluster standard, I would love to see a updated center screen. That I would love to see, because as nice as it is, there are features with the standard gauge cluster that you don't get that I wish you would get. Like, for example, on my SHO, you had two digital screens on either side of the gauge cluster instead of just a center screen. And the nice thing was you had your vehicle information on one side, and then you had your infotainment system and all your other settings on the other side. The cool thing was I could go in and change the radio stations and all those functions, you know, through the steering wheel, and look at the screen on the dash instead of having to glance too far over to the center and look down at the screen. So that was nice to be able to keep my eyes more towards the road and change my radio stations, go and do anything I need to do that I would have to do through the infotainment system right there through the steering wheel on the screen. Now, the only way you get to do that is if you option for the digital gauge cluster, since it does kind of tie into the whole system with those controls, and that's kind of disappointing. Outside of that feature, there's no reason I really would want to opt to have the digital gauge cluster. Other than, I mean, yeah, it's cool. And it's nice that you can customize it and everything, but you know, it is an expensive option. So I would love to see those kind of features make its way into the standard center screen, or a maybe revised analog gauge cluster setup, so you can browse your infotainment system through the center screen, you know, and you don't have to actually mess with the radio. So I would love to see that as a, you know, actual technical feature upgrade for the next Mustang. That would be a great thing to see. One other thing I would love to see in the interior as part of the infotainment system is a better bass sound system. So my car has the bass 9-speaker system, and it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It doesn't have any bass, you know, like, it's okay. Like, for a bass system, it's really not bad, but I would like to have a little bit more bass output from the, you know, entry-level system. I would love to see the mock radio systems and sound systems make their way back, or something of the sort, or just even add a, you know, a little subwoofer in the trunk, even if it's just something cheap, just to add a little bit more bass response in, you know, the entry-level sound system, the 9-speaker system. You know, if they can incorporate that as well, that would also be nice to see. That way it's a little bit nicer to have, and you don't feel compelled to have to add, you know, an aftermarket subwoofer or something. You know, if honestly, if this system had just a little bit more low-end output, just that little extra thump, I wouldn't really want to have to change it at all. It's actually not so bad for a factory bass sound system. So yeah, that's something else I would also love to see. All right, moving on to the exterior. Now, this is the controversial, you know, and a very unknown place here with the next gen Mustang. So many renders, so many pictures, no one really knows what it's going to look like. It looks like the styling is somewhere between the current look and then the way the S650 first looked when it came out. It looks like it's somewhere in between the two, you know, kind of blending the best of both worlds, I guess. Some renders I've seen, like there's this new one out now that keeps going around, you know, here it is, and it looks good, you know, I don't think it looks bad. I think this is one of the more better renders I've seen as a complete render, you know, not just one angle or another, it's the whole car, right? And this one's fine. Like, I can see this working for most things. You know, it still looks a little weird to me, but it's new, so it is gonna be weird, right? But there is one piece of styling I do personally love about these new renders, and that's like the big vents, side scoops in the lower bumper area. I think that's a really cool styling cue. I think, you know, and it definitely can be a functional piece, especially on the higher end models, you know, like a GT 500 or whatever performance model. You know, you can put big heat extractors in those big openings, those soffits in the bumper, and that would, you know, it could open a way for functional use, and it looks good. But the S550, love it or hate it, it does still have a lot of retro styling to it. You can't argue that. The roof line is so 60s Mustang. Once again, is a great blend of old and new when it comes to the styling. I think the part that's most polarizing with the styling of the S550 Mustang is the front end. You know, if you look at the body line, it still has the shape, but overall, it doesn't really resemble too much of the original Mustang. So all in all, I mean, I think that's all that really can be said. I mean, I don't think there's too much more I would actually love to see. I mean, it's just such a good car the way it is. And, you know, you ask for too much, you really, you know, you're not being realistic, you know. And the Mustang, at the end of the day, is a Mustang. It sits in its own class. You know, certain variants of the Mustang can rival higher-end cars. It's always been kind of a thing with the Mustang. But the Mustang's still a Mustang. You know, you really want something special, go and get something special. As long as, you know, the money's not an option, right? But the Mustang, for the most part, is what it's going to be. And I'll always love it just because it is what it is, you know, and that's all there is to it. So this is my wish list for the next gen Mustang. Let me know what you think. Is there anything that I like that you would love to see also in the next gen Mustang? Let me know, put them in the comments. Otherwise, to wrap it up here for this video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with everyone you know. You want to see more content like this and you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep a lookout for next true car enthusiast video.